Good evening. This is Maestro with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, we have a 3v3 on Estia Province. Our first player is uphighdow3. He is playing as the Warboss, tanky, aggressive melee hero for the Orcs. His first teammate is going to be old, broken down Python playing as the Kommando Nob, shooty guy with guns, bombs, and knives to kill you all sneaky-like. And the final player on the blue team will be Ruthless at heart, playing as the Plague Champion. Ranged Chaos Hero with a damage over time bolter, can get melee weapons later on, can also heal and repair. Their opponents, we're going to start off with Y, who might also be Crisis, who I also like to call Hive City, playing as the Lictor Alpha, infiltrating melee assassin commander with displacement for the Tyranids. Next up, it's going to be Kastet, playing as the Farseer. Melee hero for the Eldar, focuses on support, buffs, and spells. And finally, I can't read this, I'm sorry, but this is our Russian friend is going to be playing as Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer, spellcasting, and battlefield manipulation hero, shooting in some Doom Bolts there, doing some serious damage in all likelihood. Certainly did some damage to the Chaos Space Marines, but they are in Nurgle worship. I think the bigger problem for Ruthless at heart here is that he is also just being doubled. He is facing both a Chaos player as well as an Eldar player, and that is just going to have to be a full retreat from him. He calls the double. What are his teammates going to make of it? While they have, theoretically, an advantage on this side, because they should have a double, except for the fact that Python is just kind of in the middle. He might get a decap on the contested victory point. Sorry, the natural victory point. But while all this is happening, we do have a joint task force of some Guardians as well as some Chaos Space Marines, because that makes sense in the lore, right? Bashing a single node, and they're also might going to take down a generator. Oh, they didn't commit to taking down the generator. I feel like it might have been worth it, but they also might have been disrupted by some heretic grenades. Farseer manages to just manually back out, but certainly takes a lot of damage in the process. We are going to see the Tzeentch worship, so the red team will not be forced off just quite yet. However, there is a counter bash with old broken down Python just sneakily walking on over here, going through the middle. He does complete one generator bash, which I think is actually more than the red team achieved. Slugger Squad will be suppressed, however, by the Havoc on the defense. And this Kommando Nob is looking for something, but what will he achieve here being this sneaky? Meanwhile, up here, the Lictor Alpha is looking for a decap. Does he complete that, though? Yeah, I think Y or Crisis or Hive City, whatever his name is, if it's truly him, not even 100% sure, realizes that he could risk losing the Lictor Alpha there and would not be worth it just for the decap on the requisition. Looks like I caught the tail end of some Doom Bolts landing, but it doesn't look like they did significant damage right there. One of the ways you can actually dodge Doom Bolts when you're playing as another Chaos hero with Heretics is you can actually hit the Worship button and they'll spread out, minimizing the damage that they will take. Yeah, those Heretics do not stand a chance there, approaching triple Guardians as well as Chaos Space Marines. Timely retreat there, preventing the full damage of the Doom Bolts on those suppressed Heretics. Would have been a lot of trouble for those Heretics. Does seem like Ruthless at heart is rather routinely being doubled, and he is calling it. What's the deal, Python? Gotta help out your teammate. Ruthless at heart rightly pointing out that he's at least, he says he's not taking damage, meaning he's retreating at the right times, relatively speaking. Basically, he's not actually suffering much bleed, but it still does mean that his team does lose this power farm, and it is Ruthless at heart who has been paying for it. So that's one generator down. We're going to make it two. Suppression will go out. This is going to be a hard approach for Ruthless at heart. I don't think he really has what he needs here to really dislodge this. Okay, he does manage to unset up the Guardian weapon team. I feel like a grenade, though, right, a grenade on the Heretics is going to prevent their approach. I'm surprised they even got that far with all the damage coming in. I mean, Ruthless at heart is trying to make this as much of a fight as he can. I still feel he's outgunned, but here is Python to the rescue. Infiltrated Storm Boys will jump on the Havoc. However, they do have to worry about the Heretics right here. They're not doing anything. All right, and that will be it. Havoc actually getting into the building. That might not be where they want to go. I do feel that this fight is more or less lost, but there are some reinforcements. The Guardian weapon team is moving up. So it does look like, actually, yeah, Python has mostly gotten forced off. So it's mostly just Ruthless at heart here, and it looks like enough reinforcements have been brought for them to continue to hold this and for it to make it difficult for the blue team to put any more power back on this. Grenade goes in. Oh no, it's a complete miss. That's a big shame considering that should have been more or less guaranteed, but the suppression out of the Brightlands is still, sorry, the Guardian weapon team still going to be a little bit much. And it actually is the red team continuing to win up here, and they will just deny any power from being put down. They will even destroy the node. Haven't even had much time to see what's going on right here. The blue team is actually maintaining the double cap, and they have a significant lead in victory points. And they actually have players on their team are going to Tier 2 first, despite the fact that the red team has had definitely more pressure on the power here, though they certainly have not had the pressure on the victory points. They don't even have their own victory point at the moment. Stun bomb will go out from the Kommando Nob. Not to achieve that much there, though. Red team, I was going to say, is going to look for a double cap, but they still don't have a unit on this point. And they're down nearly 200 victory points.
That's away! Some of the allied boys just picked up a victory point for us!
So against all odds, Python and Ruthless at heart will be making it to Tier 2. Our Russian friend on the red team, as well as Y, are only just starting Tier 2 right now. We're going to see a truck out of Python. We'll also see some upgrades. We've got a Warboss right here, spiky armor, as well as the boss pole. Boss pole does work out rather nicely with giving his sluggers and his shooters more health, as well as 50% less suppression. Alright, meanwhile something is going to happen over here. Generator Bash, double grenade launcher heretics out of Ruthless at heart. Does, I think, actually make sense given that he has faced a very ranged-heavy opposition, both in the opposing Eldar player as well as the opposing Chaos player. And considering the fact that he's also routinely getting doubled, there's almost no chance that his heretics will actually get into melee if they were still in melee form. He's trying to back up this Plague Champion, but I think this Plague Champion is in quite a bit of trouble. So are the Chaos Space Marines. Yeah, they'll all get suppressed if they stay there any longer, so it's yet another retreat from Ruthless at heart. It should mean another Generator Bash out of the red team. However, it does look like the blue team is trying to do a counter bash on the other side. War Truck at the moment, I think, is also pretty much uncountered. So that should give the blue team the fight on this side of the map. Storm Boys will jump in. They're going to look to pop the models on the Warriors. And this should be a majorly won engagement. They need to take this opportunity to get a full bash on the power farm. What is even happening on the other side? The red team still controlling this area, but doesn't quite have the full bash just yet. Looks like they've taken down 2 generators. Should be able to make it 3. And the same thing is definitely happening on the other side. So the generator farms will be traded out more or less evenly this time. Ruthless at heart, just struggling, facing this down. He does finally get some Bloodletters, a jump unit, to counter all of these setup teams that he has had to deal with. However, this is actually not bad. The Bloodletters are immune to suppression, but they do have to be careful about taking damage. And the closer you get to a setup team, the more damage they do. So although they would not actually be suppressed by the Havoc there, they still couldn't stick around too much longer because they had pretty quickly been burned down to about 75% of their health, which might seem like a high number, but that's around the time when they're at risk for losing a mob. Meanwhile, back on this side, we do have a Tyrant Guard out for Y. Tyrant Guard will be stepping forward. The Warboss has been forced off, and I think it's going to be pretty hard for uphighdow3 to really stay around much longer without the Warboss. The Warboss is pretty key in this composition because of both that 50% less received suppression as well as the extra health that he is giving with that boss pole. They will not have that buff without him present. Some Doom Bolts will go in from our Russian friend. Although, he's not actually the only Russian player here. Kastet is also Russian, but Kastet has a name that I can read. Anyway, Storm Boys will be jumping in once again. These coming from uphighdow3. They will scare off the Warriors. And it does look like kind of staggered retreats out of Y this time. Individual units are getting caught. It's clearly a one engagement here for uphighdow3. He needs to get these termagants out of here before they end up being wiped entirely. He's lost track of them, so he's going to lose them. Meanwhile, the Tyrant Guard is still here. Tyrant Guard does need to be careful right here, though. The Storm Boys and the Sluggas both do an enormous amount of damage against the Tyrant Guard. However, an enormous amount of damage is also being done to the Sluggas themselves, and they're actually pretty close to getting wiped, except for this Nob, who is quite tanky. So Y does manage to salvage that engagement, and now he's actually forced off a few units of uphighdow3's. Range damage will be put into the Tyrant Guard, but the Tyrant Guard is really good at shrugging off the damage from the shooters. Meanwhile, we are going to see the approach from the Hormigons, and the Warboss goes down. Uphighdow3, apparently just losing track of them. Was in the middle of upgrading to the Power Claw, something that would do well against the the Tyrant Guard. Oh no, we've got double Fire Dragons. This is something that is going to melt generators quite quickly. Also could melt War Trucks quite quickly. The War Truck won't last very long against that. War Truck cannot drive into this firing arc at all. It doesn't even have its full hit points. Meanwhile, we also have the old double dog build from our Russian friend. We are going to have one Blood Crusher going in. Where is the damage against the Blood Crusher? It pretty much isn't here. So the Blood Crusher is isolated, but also more or less uncontested. Second Blood Crusher is also coming in. Storm Boys are one of the units that might actually be able to put some damage on those Blood Crushers, but the Blood Crushers are just going to town. The War Truck is down as well, and the Fire Dragons are currently shooting unopposed at the Storm Boys. Storm Boys are looking to deal with the Havocs, and the double Blood Crusher will but force the retreat out of Old Python. All of these players kind of lucky. Well, Python and Ruthless at heart really lacking a unit that can actually respond to the Blood Crusher. Neither one of them had anti-vehicle. Python will now be getting some tank busters, and we're going to see Ruthless at heart getting a Havoc. He'll be looking to put a Mark of Corn on that. Nope, he canceled it. He'll switch to Mark of Zine to go for the harder anti-vehicle. We're going to see a Kommando Nob running around here. He will look for a revive on the Warboss. Kommando Nob has some upgrades of his own. He's got the special shooter. Does grant him the ability to passively do weapon knockback just on his regular attacks. He also gets the high explosive shells ability. Does give knockback, but more so just used as a splash damage ability. Or AoE ability, rather. Good for blowing up just some of those squishier squads in the game. Heretics will find themselves approached, accosted by some opposing Chaos units. Tank busters are moving in, as well as some anti-vehicle out of Ruthless at heart. The Blood Crushers are on this side of the map. So, Havoc will look to get a good firing arc. Only the Hive Tyrant is actually in the firing arc, and it's not even shooting at the Hive Tyrant. Las Cannon is shooting at something else entirely. Okay, can the Las Cannon fire a new target? Meanwhile, that is going to be the Kommando Nob going down. Okay, Las Cannon does have a target on the Blood Crusher, so do the Tank Busters, but the Blood Crusher is getting out of there. Both Blood Crushers still alive. These are going to be some Tank Busters jumping in. They are going to be probably looking for killing this Tyrant Guard. I think the Tyrant... Oh yeah, the Tyrant Guard is 100% dead. Dead Tyrant Guard. Blood Crushers need to be incredibly careful here. Another vehicle goes down for the red team. I'm not so sure about this one either. Okay, no. Las Cannon is out of play now, and that also means that the Tank Busters can't really take care of the Blood Crusher. They do actually get partially revealed. They have been hidden by the Kommando Nob. They're going to go for it. They unleash one volley, a second one. They'll need a third one after this to finish off the Blood Crusher. Can they get another one? They're going for... They don't connect. They went for it. They couldn't pull off the third volley, went for the barrage. Meanwhile, that was some Guardians going down for Kastet. Autocannon Havoc is going to be unloading here for our Russian friend. getting some damage on the Warboss. We'll also get some nice damage onto the Shooter Boys, but at some point, there isn't really enough support for this Havoc. So the Havoc won't be around, won't be able to do any more sustained damage there. The autocannon Havoc, nice in that it's anti-all, but the actual DPS isn't that high when it comes to doing anti-infantry damage. Of course, it does also do splash, but still, it's definitely a sustained damage weapon, and it needs to be given some considerable uptime to really have an impact against enemy infantry, which means it needs some protection so it can actually be allowed to shoot. Alright, not a whole lot going on at the moment. We are going to see a generator farm being approached. Storm Boys are going to jump in on this another isolated Havoc, which will just have to retreat immediately. So it will just be a generator farm taken down. However, some Khorne Marines are going to have something to say about this. Actually, we won't see the full farm taken down. I'm not sure that Bomber Boys was worth it. They sacrificed a model. They wanted the disruption on the Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines are actually taking a fair amount of damage at the point where they might have to be concerned about losing a model, so they do back off. Now they're going back in. They do have support from the Sorcerer. Fire Dragons have often been good at finding targets in this game. The Storm Boys in a bit of trouble. Oh no, I don't think they make it out alive, actually. There are some grenades on retreat. Grenades on retreat, not even needed. And the Storm Boys have been taken down for Old Python. Doombolts will go in, partially connecting on the Heretics. It brings them down to about 80% of their hit points. They're going to worship right in front of the enemy. They're going to lose a lot of hit points from that. Probably trying to support the Bloodletters, who are themselves rather low. This should be a Psychic Storm, getting that area of effect suppression. Shooter Boys need to get out of there. They walked right into it. The Chaos Space Marines do manage to walk away. A barrage, Tank Buster Barrage is going to be a complete miss. Probably just looking for the Blood Crusher, hoping that the Blood Crusher would walk into it. But no such luck there. Meanwhile, the contested victory point will be taken again by the red team. They are rather low on victory points, still at a 200 victory point deficit, but this Neurothrope might be something that can change things. So we are in Tier 3 for some players. Neurothrope is already here. Upgraded play. Oh, the Kommando Nob with the grappling hook. Going all the way in. He goes all the way in with the grappling hook. And then he does use the high explosive shells. Was a unit wiped there? Certainly some models died there. Blood Crusher needs to use his charge to get out of there. Stun Bomb goes on the Guardians. So that grappling hook coming in from that Kommando Nob, granting him some significant burst movement, just got right behind enemy lines and then unloaded with the high explosive shells. A fun combo with this can also be to grappling hook in with and then have Kaboom. He doesn't have Kaboom at the moment, though. Alright, Neurothrope will use Cataclysm. However, the Storm Boys are jumping in here. The Neurothrope might be in a lot of trouble, but so are the Storm Boys. They are pretty low. Lictor Alpha will be jumping in, but dies as soon as he jumps. He actually was jumping away there and died as soon as he jumped. Meanwhile, we might see another dead squad of Storm Boys. Indeed, it will happen. Another cast of Cataclysm out of the Neurothrope. Just doing some knockback right there. And it is a bloodbath in this engagement. The Fire Dragons, once again, I feel like anytime I see the Fire Dragons, they are shooting unopposed. Grenades on retreat. And this is uphighdow3 calling that he has been flanked. So that will be the red team maintaining the double cap, or will it? We are going to see a back cap right here from Old Python with the Kommando Nob. Sneaky getting that back cap. Fully upgraded Warboss here, still has that spiky armor, good as anti-melee, and the Power Claw, just for big damage. Ruthless at heart does have a fully upgraded Plague Champion. Have actually seen him walk around with that. Armor of Pestilence, as well as the Plague Fist. That stun quite good against enemy melee units. And this isolated Havoc, gonna have to get out of here again before it does get wiped. One model probably gonna go down, but the second one should get out of there just fine. Meanwhile, up here, the Neurothrope getting pretty close. Where is the rest of his army? He is pretty lucky, I think, just to be getting out of there alive. Meanwhile, where is the Kommando Nob going? He certainly has achieved one mission of getting the natural victory point away from the red team. So the red team is bleeding victory points. Once again, they are down by a sizable amount. Bloodletter's teleporting in. Will they find a target? They're going to move back here. The Seer Council need to be... Actually, the Seer Council are fine. We will see a Pestilence Strike. That will slow down the Seer Council, but it basically is only just going to buy the Plague Champion and escape. He'll survive. Pestilence Strike is actually a very good counter to the Seer Council, being able to just stun them on demand. However, by itself, not enough. There is a whole Eldar army here and one lone Plague Champion. More generators going to be bashed, and more victory points going down for the red team.
Our friend's camp is burning.
Not a whole lot going on at the moment. Ruthless at heart going to tier 3. Our Russian friend will be getting a Great Unclean One and a Carnifex on the way for Y. All players will be in tier 3 once Ruthless at heart does finish that up. What could Ruthless at heart be looking for? Could be looking for some Terminators. It is a possibility. Power income for the blue team isn't great, but let's take a look at this fight right here. Finally, one of these Fire Dragon squads is being forced off. Another squad still being able to fire, while these Seer Council are trying to go in. So are the Khorne Marines. There is also a nice cast of Psychic Storm. However, there is also some Touch of Nurgle, but the Touch of Nurgle is on a non-melee Heretic squad, which the synergy is not quite as good there. Still works to some extent, does knock back the Seer Council, but this is looking like a one engagement for the red team. They need to convert it into victory points, though, and they need to stop letting this happening. Stop letting this happen. Let's try to English better. Here comes the Rocks. The Rock's going to be right on top of the Doom of Malantai, or the Neurothrope. Doom of Malantai is the old name for the unit, and the Rocks actually ended up being mostly dodged. I think only a few Gants or Gaunts might have been caught by that. Doombolt's going to go in up here on the shooters, as the Dire Avengers, or rather the Guardians, will be moving back here. There is not much time, though, for the red team. They are bleeding victory points. They don't even have one of their own. They don't even have their own. Get a unit over here to cap it before you lose the game. They're cutting it very, very close at this point. They're really running out of time. This Havoc needs to be the one, or this Farseer. They need, like they're almost at the point where it's lethal. Or if they ever give up the victory points again, it most likely will be the end of the game in favor of the blue team. Wow, red team just barely captures that victory point. That's actually a pretty key. Even though these Guardians are currently zoned out, the Great Unclean One can actually zone this for a decent amount of time, but what he can't do is he can't really let the Nobs just attack him. The Nobs are actually the biggest threat against him. Okay, finally realized that. Where are those abilities, though? Guardians here to defend. Grenade goes out, but Meaner and Greener has been activated. The knockback will still happen, but no damage actually done to those Nobs. This Great Unclean One needs to use some spells just to stall this out. He's lacking support, though. The Farseer is just going to die. Farseer just kind of feeding there. It is going to be a decap for the blue team. Like, I see full energy on this Great Unclean One. Ideally, he wants to use some kind of abilities like the Vomit. He uses the Vomit on something else, but a Panic Retreat. Maybe it wasn't a Panic Retreat. I feel like... Yeah, I don't think so, actually. I guess just enough enemy units approaching from the red team to keep them alive. My god! Does the Neurothrope make it out alive? 20 hit points. The Terminator should be able to finish it off, and they do. Barb Strangler Carnifex does do some decent amount of damage to the Terminators. One shot takes out a fairly nice chunk of their health. That one's going to be a complete miss, though. Great Unclean One tries to pull the Plague Champion, but he does have the Armor of Pestilence, so he is immune to weapon knockback. Okay, the red team currently holding on to this double cap. A Warboss was forced off, was pulled off even by the Lictor Alpha. Lictor Alpha fully upgraded. Ooh, has the Menacing Visage. This one is an interesting ability in that you can force an enemy unit to retreat. The only ability, I'm pretty sure it's the only ability of its kind in the game. It might be possible that there might be like an Ordo Malleus unit or commander who maybe has an ability that was added in. Certainly in the baseline game, the Lictor Alpha is the only one who has something like that. In many ways, a very powerful ability. I mean, even just something like a unit's capturing or trying to capture a point and use Menacing Visage on them to force them to retreat. Especially if that's used against something like Nobs. Gonna be getting the Adrenal Glands. That switches out from the Deadly Jump. I guess maybe he's not feeling that the Deadly Jump has really been giving him the value that he has wanted, that he's going to literally give up an ability so that he can get more energy, basically. Energy and regeneration. The regeneration does make sense, both for the energy and the health, because that gives them sustainability on the field, which is very much something they need right now, because they can't really afford to give up much field presence. All right, the blue team is ready to make their push. It's going to come down to this. The Avatar is backing away. Why is the Avatar backing away? Why is the Avatar backing away? Why is the Avatar backing away? The Avatar needs to be the one to Wailing Doom those units off the point. Okay, finally, a little late here. But the VP has been even out. In fact, he even missed the unit that was on the victory point. Okay, here is the big fight, though. Wrath of Cain will be coming out from the Avatar. Avatar is actually going to go down pretty soon. It's just all up in here. Now it's lacking a lot of support. Yeah, I mean, where? I don't know. Looks like some players were trying to make a play for the natural victory point, but they might have given up the contested victory point. This fight is still going, though. The Great Unclean One is still here. The Carnifex is more or less out of it, though. The numbers favor the blue team. However, here come unfortunately, the Fire Dragons have done well all game, but one in particular did not last very long. Their Endless Swarm, or is it Without Number? Very similar names of abilities. Calling in a new Termagant and Hormagaunt Brood does give them the field presence to be able to capture the point, and they are going to be able to get the natural. So it actually all worked out in the end. Tank Buster's right here. What are they going to do? Tank Buster's just looking for the decap, but I feel like the Great Unclean One should be able to do something about this. It depends what abilities he has ready. Might not actually have any of them ready. No, he does! He will stomp them off the point. They don't even manage to white it out. It's a triple cap for the red team, and they may have just done it. Indeed, they have. The blue team will not be able to get to the victory points in time to be able to turn it back in their favor, and the red team will take this game. All right, that will be it. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.